What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some insane battles in the Great League Remix Cup submitted to the channel by Hey Look It's Devon, who's running a triple dragon theme team. But not only that, they've got a level 51 best buddy boosted 100% IV lucky Frigibax, which actually makes it to 1427 CP, which is a lot higher than I realized, and actually it makes it a lot more viable than any of the other unevolved pseudo legendary dragons. But it's much harder to grind for the XL candies for this Pokemon since it's incredibly rare in the wild, and they mentioned it took 118 days and 840 kilometers walking to get all of the XLs for this Pokemon, so full respect for the grind. I've had similar grinds for a lot of the obscure XL Pokemon that I've best buddied over the years, and obviously my most recent one being Moat Goat was really awkward because literally just a few days after I finished getting all the XLs for this Pokemon, there was then an event where it was spawning frequently in the wild, and that just made it so much more awkward because obviously it would be so much easier getting the XL candies from catching it in the wild with a Mega equipped, and then of course distance trading to get those guaranteed XL candies from trades. That would have been so much easier than just walking it as my buddy. But anyways, enough about me and my Pokemon. That's not what this video is about. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favorite first stage unevolved form of a pseudo legendary Pokemon? They don't have to be in Pokemon Go right now. Just let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, lead Shadow Dragonite into Shadow Dragonair. Now this is a very awkward matchup where if we don't get damage registration error, they should be able to just fully Dragon Breath farm us down before we get off the charge move, which is very unfortunate. But likewise, we're able to come in with Frigibax and get the snipe before the opponent reacts, so Shadow Dragonair getting a taste of its own medicine there. We can now go for a Dragon Claw, and Dragon Claw grabs a shield from the Jellicent, probably not having a clue what moveset Frigibax runs. Honestly, I'd probably assume it is similar to the evolutions because Pokemon Go has been doing a lot of that recently, where we give the first stage evolutions and the middle stage evolutions pretty similar movesets. But here we're going to swap into our Shadow Flygon. We are behind on energy, and this will be a play rough because of course Discharge is triple resisted. But we swapped out so late there that we've actually banked enough energy, hopefully, to go for back-to-back avalanches. We're not taking any risk by going for a bait, and we make it to avalanche number 2. Avalanche will be KOing the Dedenne. They come back in with Jellicent, and we are able to win the race, getting to the Dragon Claw, winning CMP, and of course Dragon Claw from this range takes out the Jellicent, and we're able to take that game. So you can see Frigibax closing strong in that first battle. Into the next game, we see Dragonite into Mantine. So this is a bit of an awkward matchup if the opponent builds up to an Ice Beam, but the opponent's just going to go straight for an Aerial Ace, so very easy no shield there. We can go for a Dragon Claw, but actually now looking at this, we might not make it to a second Dragon Claw here, so we are going to see the opponent panics anyways and just throws the charge boost, so we're definitely just going to let Dragonite go down. We can now come in with the Frigibax, and we are not able to get the full Dragon Breath farm down, which is very unfortunate, but again, just going to be an Aerial Ace, so we tank that, and they're going to come in with a Shadow Quagsire, so we're going straight for the Avalanche here. Once again, not baiting. Avalanche does huge damage to the Quagsire. We're now going to shield this up here, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They go for an Aqua Tail bait, and they've got a Shadow Swampert in the back, so we're going to back the energy swap, but we also swap one turn early, so we get a full Mud Shot in for free, which doesn't actually matter too much here because we're going to outpace them anyways, or at least win CMP. But now the opponent can just shield this up and then go for a full Mud Shot farm down, but it doesn't matter as we were just one Dragon Breath away from an Avalanche, so we're going to shield this up, just go straight for the Avalanche here, no point in baiting. Quagsire isn't making it to another move. Avalanche gets the KO, and we Dragon Breath farm down the Quagsire to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Quagsire in the lead this time around, so this is a pretty good lead matchup for us. I think if they do bait, maybe they will outpace us to a Stone Edge, but it doesn't really matter. We're going straight for the Dragon Claw, and Dragon Claw goes unshielded, so I personally probably would shield here just because we've got basically a full health Dragonite, but we're actually going to no shield, come in with the Shadow Flygon. I guess when we're running a triple dragon team, switch advantage and stuff like that isn't as important because we're still going to be countered by pretty similar Pokemon, but here you can see Registeel is in the back, so obviously we definitely prefer to have our Flygon aligned to the Registeel, but we go for an Avalanche. Avalanche does respectable damage, but not quite enough damage here. At this point, we're actually going to shield this, which is quite surprising as they go for a Focus Blast. They're not going to drop our attack, of course, but a second Avalanche still won't quite get the KO here, and the opponent is going to no-shield once again. Honestly, I thought at this point they just conceded the match there, but nope. Just a little bit of lag. They go for another Focus Blast. We're hoping to get a huge Mud Shot farm down, but the opponent's Switch Clock is already up, and now, unfortunately, I don't think we can win this game here because we're going to need to land 2 Dragon Claws. The opponent is shielding up these charge moves, but it doesn't really matter. We are over farming, but so is the opponent, and it's very likely that the opponent just farms the back-to-back charge moves. So at this point, we're going to shield this up here as they go for an Aerial Ace, and we're actually going for a Scorching Sands. I think we realized they're at back-to-back moves, so there's no way we can win this. So actually, we just go for the BM. We actually drop their attack as well, so Aerial Ace does still get the KO despite having debuffed their attack, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But into the next battle, another Shadow Quagsire in the lead, so probably going to play this out the same. I think it looks like we're pretty happy to just sacrifice the Dragonite here and then save a shield for the Frigibax or the Flygon, but here we are going to grab a shield from the Shadow Quagsire. They then bait with an Aqua Tail, so very nice for us. At this point, we're still not committing any shields here. The opponent going to go for another Aqua Tail. Shadow Dragonite hangs on, and we will be able to make it to a Dragon Claw in time, and this is going to take out the Quagsire, so we get a shield advantage and switch advantage, which is very nice. We can now come back in with our Frigibax here, and we don't need to shield a move here, but we're going to shield anyways, just playing it safe. The opponent goes for an Aerial Ace, fine with us, and then they swap into Carbink, so we're going to bank an Avalanche and then swap into our Shadow Flygon, go for a Scorching Sands. It looks like a CMP tie here. We actually missed some bubbles there, so we don't quite get an excellent, and actually never mind, that wasn't a CMP tie. But honestly, that's going to make this Mudshot farm down slightly more awkward since we didn't get that excellent. And you can see we just barely miss out on getting the farm down. I think this is just going to be a rock slide, so that's fine. We live it anyways. But of course, if we hit that excellent, we could have just perfectly farmed them down there. Not even tank a rock slide, but it doesn't really matter at this point. We've got very close to 3 Dragon Claws already loaded, and the opponent's just going to concede the match at this point. No point shielding that as we still had an Avalanche loaded on the Frigibax, so we're able to take that game. But into the next battle, and this is probably the worst leader we could possibly see. Of course, I guess a Charm user as well would be very bad, but Steelix gonna absolutely obliterate the entire team. We do have coverage with Superpower and Scorching Sands, and even Avalanche is going to do quite a lot of damage, but unfortunately, they can just go for these Dragon Tails, dealing huge damage, drop our defense with a Psychic Fangs as well. It looks like the opponent's just going to double shield their Steelix. They're probably recognizing they've seen 2 dragons already. There might be a 3rd dragon in the back, so at this point, not looking too good for us. We come in with the Frigibax. We're actually going to no-shield the first move. We kind of have to because they're very likely just going to go for Psychic Fangs, drop our defense again. So we are going to shield the next Psychic Fangs here, but we are now double debuffed. We're going to swap into our Dragonite, and the opponent swaps into Poliwrath, and we actually just stopped recording there, and I don't blame us really because there was nothing we could do up against that team. But into the next battle, a much better lead for us as we see a Swampert. So gonna no-shield. Hydro Cannon still does over 50% of our health, but we're going to overfarm, throwing just before they make it to the next charge move. Dragon Claw is going to be no shielded, and they come in with a Gligar. So once again, over farming, throwing just before they make it to their charge move. Dragon Claw is going to be shielded. Hopefully we make it to another Dragon Claw, but we're barely not able to do so. So that's definitely quite unfortunate for us, but the opponent also going to massively over farm. We're going to shield the first move as they go for an Aerial Ace, and this is probably now going to be a dig here. So we're going to no shield anyways. We can tank this, not super comfortably, but actually reasonably comfortably there, considering it's a Frigibax. But now we're going to go straight for the Avalanche. Avalanche is going to be no shielded. We now swap into Flygon, and this is just going to be a mirror shot. So definitely just going to no shield. Not going to do much damage here. And now we can actually just go straight for a Scorching Sands, throwing on the CMP tie. Very nice here. Scorching Sands is going to grab the final shield. We drop their attack. Honestly, we might be able to live a Power Whip at this point, but no point in risking it. We very easily outpace them. We could have just settled for a Dragon Claw in all honesty, but it doesn't really matter. We go for the Scorching Sands, guaranteeing the KO, and we're still able to outpace the Gligar to the next charge move. We go for Dragon Claw, taking out the Gligar, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Shadow Dragonite into Poliwrath. So this is definitely where we want to see it with this team. Of course, Poliwrath has that Icy Wind coverage, which is going to hit for double super effective damage up against both the Dragonite and the Flygon. And they've got counter for the Frigibax. But honestly, these Dragon Breaths are absolutely chunking. And despite them dropping our attack here, a Dragon Claw will definitely KO by the time we reach it. And again, throwing just before they make it to the Icy Wind. So this trainer always trying to maximize the energy before throwing the charge move. And I very much like that play. We are now going to come in with the Frigibax, and unless they're running Draco Meteor or Sludge Wave, all of the charge moves will be resisted from the Goodra, so we know we can just go straight for the Dragon Claw. They let that go through, and they've got Clodsire in the back, so this should be game over. The opponent's going to throw here quite early, so I think we are just going to call that it is just a Stone Edge. It could have been a Sludge Bomb as well, but either way we were going to resist that, so we let it go through, and now we go for the Scorching Sands, dropping their attack and still outpacing them to the next charge move. Scorching Sands gets the KO up against the Clodsire. Frigibax didn't really need to do much in that battle, but we're able to take that game. Into next game, we see Shadow Gallade in the lead, so this is a very good matchup for us. Honestly, close combat probably KOs, and we're going to no-shield, and it is the close combat, and despite being resisted damage, that gets the knockout, but we can come in with the Frigibax. You can see at this point, it's very clear that this trainer loves to just no-shield their Dragonite and then save shields for the back Pokemon. But in this case, it probably would have been very nice if we just shielded, farmed them down, and then Dragonite, unless it goes up against a Fairy type, that energy is going to be very useful, especially when Dragonite is still very healthy, which of course, it wasn't taking much damage from those Psycho cards. But either way, going to shield up a Feather Dance here. It's pretty obvious that they're going for Feather Dance, but the Shadow Flygon, honestly, very glassy, can't really tank a Feather Dance particularly well. We're going to make it to another Dragon Claw here, throwing on the CMP tie. Dragon Claw grabs the final shield from the opponent. At this point, we're actually going to no shield. I'm not sure if I agree with this, because we don't really have that much HP remaining. We swap straight away into Frigibax, and the opponent recognizing we're going to swap straight away there, so they are going to swap into their Registeel. We win CMP, which is fine, but Focus Bars will be taking us out, and because we let the Feather Dance go through, we actually don't even make it to a Scorching Sands, and even if we did, of course, they could just wing attack farm us down on their Pidgeot, so I think we definitely should have shielded that Feather Dance there and then swapped out. But either way, into the next battle, we're going to see Empoleon in the lead, so this actually, despite being a bad matchup in the one shield scenario, it's actually very close. Just with the Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw damage alone, we will get them incredibly low, but what we don't really want them to do is to just commit to a full Steel Wing farm down, and actually it looks like we win CMP and the opponent lets that go through, so that's perfectly fine with us. So we did actually commit a shield in this matchup, but that's fine because we get them pretty low, and putting on a bit of a core breaker to the team as well, so that's fine. But this is definitely not fine here. We're going for the Scorching Sands. We need them to no shield this, and they actually let that go through. I don't know why, and at this point we've actually got a win condition here. I really like this play here because of course we were only making it to a Dragon Claw, but since we swapped out there, we were actually one mud shot away from a Scorching Sands. We grabbed the final shield with an Avalanche, so at this point the safe play is just a no shield. They actually bait with a Thunder Punch, and that's fine with us. At this point we put them into Dragon Claw range, so there's really no point going for the Scorching Sands. We're just going to go for that Dragon Claw straight away, taking out the Shadow Hypno, and we're able to take that game. So not really sure why the opponent didn't shield their Granbull there, but maybe thinking they'd already seen two Dragon types, it was unlikely that they're going to see a third. But unfortunately for them, there was a third Dragon type Pokemon, so yeah, shielding the Granbull would have just made it impossible for us. But into the next battle, we still Mantine in the lead. We're just going to safe swap into a Carbink, which isn't particularly safe. We're going for the Scorching Sands, and this is where, of course, having the Flygon on the team is very helpful because Carbink reasonably common in this meta, so having a very good answer even as a Dragon type Pokemon is quite nice. We're going for the Dragon Claw here. Dragon Claw probably not going to KO. It doesn't even come close. Carbink tanks that so easily, but likewise we will be able to tank a Rock Slide here. So gonna no shield. We come out with 100 energy, which is perfect, and also minimal farm for the opposing Mantine coming back in, so actually pretty good for us there. We can go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is unshielded. The next Dragon Claw probably still won't quite KO, and the opponent is going to let that go through. We swap into Dragonite, but we don't commit to the farm down there. Instead, we go for a Dragon Claw, grab a shield. They actually stay in with the Mantine, and unfortunately they've got a Shadow Poliwrath in the back as well. They throw pretty early here, so we're going to no shield. It's a power up punch, and I think that's just game over, unfortunately. Not a lot we could do up against a Shadow Poliwrath in the back when Dragonite was so low. But into the next game, another Mantine in the lead. So Mantine very common in this meta. This time we're going to throw on CMP with the potential Ice Beam, so I don't mind that play. Pretty clear, well, pretty usual that the opponent will just throw as soon as they get to an Ice Beam. They are going to bait with an Aerial Ace, but that's fine. We actually swap into Frigibax, which I'm not too sure about. I think we could have actually just stayed in with the Dragonite there and either force them to go for an Ice Beam straight away and one CMP, or force them to go for an Aerial Ace there, which I think we probably would have just barely lived and still made it to a Dragon Claw anyways. But either way, the opponent doesn't commit to the full Rock Throw farm down, which is very nice for the Flygon, as now we can over farm just a little bit here, go for the Scorching Sands, Sands, and Scorching Sands is actually going to be shielded by the opponent there, which is quite strange. At this point, we definitely just shield this up, and then we can just massively overfarm with our Shadow Flygon. Again, it doesn't look like we had to fully farm them down, and because last time Dragon Claw didn't KO, we go for Scorching Sands, but the opponent makes a very nice catch there, catching it onto Mantine, which is a really nice play, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. We go for Scorching Sands, we swap here, forcing the opponent to throw pretty much as soon as possible, and the opponent's going to go for a Wild Charge there, so I don't know if that means they're not running Body Slam, but otherwise I feel like Body Slam would have probably taken out the Dragonite anyways. So now we overfarm with the Flygon, we can now go for a Dragon Claw. But does this actually KO? Dragon Claw doesn't get the KO, but we get the Mudshot farm down, and we're able to take that game. So into the next battle, we see Gligar in the lead, so this is fine with us, of course. We are going to be outpaced to the first charge move, but Aerial Ace not going to do too much damage here. I'm not really sure if Aerial Ace will put us into farm down range before we make it to back-to-back Dragon Claws, but I think we are just happy to no-shield the Dragonite, go for a Dragon Claw. The opponent also going to no-shield, and they're just going to throw here. And honestly, like I mentioned before, switch advantage isn't super important with a triple dragon team, but of course if they do have like a steel type or something, Frigibax isn't going to do particularly well. So we swap here, and the opponent's actually got a Carbink, so this trainer running into quite a lot of Carbink, which is unfortunate for a triple dragon team. So maybe fighting for switch advantage would have actually been very helpful in this case, because of course we align the Frigibax to the Mandibuzz and then Flygon up against the Carbink. That would have been quite nice, but I mean, easy to say in hindsight. We're going to go for a Scorching Sands here. Scorching Sands will, of course, be enough damage to get the KO. We actually go for an undercharge there, hoping maybe to get maybe 1 or 2 mud shots in for free before they get to a charge move, but unfortunately, it does still KO. And at this point, this is looking like it's game over. Obviously, the mud shots are going to be double resisted by Mandibuzz, doing basically 0 fast move pressure. We kind of just have to call an Aerial Ace bait, and we do live that. But honestly, at this point, we're in Snarl farm down range, and we're going to see when we do finally land a Dragon Claw, it's probably going to take 4 Dragon Claws to get the KO. So we go for Dragon Claw number 3, and yeah, you can see it doesn't do enough damage, and we instantly recognize we're not going to win that game, so we just concede the match there. But into the next battle, we see a Shadow Gallade in the lead once again, and again, just going to no-shield here. The opponent full sends the close combat once again, and once again, we just come in with the Frigibax, so we can see an Obstagoon here. If we just shielded and then farm them down, honestly, I think we've been in a great position with our Shadow Dragonite, but either way, we're going to shield this up here, and we're actually tanking these counters reasonably well, considering it's a Frigibax. We're going to go for a Dragon Claw here, and we are going to make it to another Dragon Claw before the opponent gets the counter farm down, and now we're going to swap into our Shadow Flygon. Now, we can tank 1 charge move. We kind of need to save a shield just in case. Well, I mean, we don't know what's in the back yet, so probably going to be something that hits slightly harder than an Obstagoon with its Night Slash or Cross Chop. But we throw on the CMP tie, and the opponent, it looks like they've just rage quit out of the app at this point, because I mean, they're very much lagging right now, but yeah, it's going to be a Togedemaru in the back, so Flygon absolutely going to annihilate this thing here. We're actually going to fully undercharge it, going for the BM, which is quite unnecessary considering they've probably not even got the game open anymore, so yeah, we're going to swap back into Frigibax, get the Dragon Breath farm down, and we're able to take that game. Internet's going to see Obstagoon in the lead this time around, so we are going to be resisting the counters. They are also non-stab, so not doing too much damage here. Gonna no-shield the first move as they go for a Night Slash, and they don't get the boost, which is very nice. We're going to overfarm here, and at this point, we've put them into range where we can just go straight for a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw, gonna get the KO. We also leave our Dragonite with very minimal HP, so they're not going to get too much farm, and we actually still make it to another Dragon Claw, which is probably best case scenario for us. At this point, we're not going to have to full send an Avalanche with our Frigibax. We can tank this move, but we're going to play it safe anyways, use our shield, and the opponent does go for the dig, which does hit, of course, a lot harder than an Aerial Ace. We can now go for a Dragon Claw throwing just before they make it to the next charge move. They let that go through, and they've got Pelipper in the back, so we're actually going to swap into our Shadow Flygon here, and we're able to make it to a Dragon Claw before the opponent goes and throws a Hurricane, or potentially just baits with a Weather Ball, and at this point, we've grabbed the shield. Things are looking good for us. We're basically going to force them to throw their energy straight away, and they do exactly that. They don't overfarm at all here, so now we can just come back in with the Frigibax. All we need to do here is basically farm 2 back-to-back Dragon Claws. We should outpace them 2 back-to-back Weather Balls, and we're now there. So going for the first Dragon Claw, this should be grabbing the final shield, and then of course one final Dragon Claw from this range will be enough damage to take out the Pelipper, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Shadow Dragonite into Jellicent. So this is an okay matchup for us, not super dominant here. And for the first time today, we're actually going to throw on pretty poor timing, so not really sure why we did that, but it doesn't really matter too much. The opponent going to throw straight away. We're just going to let this go through, and the opponent does full send a Shadow Ball, but not too bad because we can come in with the Frigibax, and the opponent commits to another Shadow Ball. They don't get there in time, but they've got a Poliwrath in the back, so yeah, definitely if we threw on better timing and maybe shielded our Dragonite, we'd be in a much better position. But we're going to swap into our Flygon, probably going to grab a shield here as they haven't had the opportunity to debuff us with an Icy Wind just yet, so definitely going to shield this up. Icy Wind would definitely KO, and they've got a Gligar in the back, so honestly not looking too good for us right now. If we did just win the lead matchup there, I think we'd be in an okay position, but we're going to go for another Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw not going to do much damage since we are debuffed, and the opponent is going to throw just before we make it to the next charge move, so very good timing, and we're going to throw a Dragon Claw on CMP. Now personally, I probably wouldn't have shielded that, and if I did shield, I'd have probably just swapped into my Frigibax at this point, banked the Dragon Claw since we were still debuffed, so that doesn't KO, and now the opponent can just save their shield for the Poliwrath. We do have a slight energy advantage, but I don't think we're making it to back-to-back Dragon Claws here. We're gonna try though. Frigibax makes it to the first Dragon Claw, but they're at the charge move now, and again, we just stopped recording too soon. But yeah, not a lot we could have done there. And into the final battle of this video, we're going to see a Shadow Hypno in the lead. So we're going to throw a Dragon Claw just before they make it to a potential Elemental Punch. And Dragon Claw is going to be no shielded, and they actually go for an extra Confusion, which allows us the full Dragon Breath farm down. But they've got a Shadow Machamp in the back, which is quite scary for us, as of course, they've just countered down our Dragonite. We're going to go for a Dragon Claw here, grab a shield from the opponent. Now this one, they've probably got back-to-back cross chops, so if we shield here, we're going to have to double shield, and we are happy to double shield the Flygon. At this point, we do have a Dragon Claw loaded, so going to throw straight away, and then we're probably going to have to swap into our Frigibax, because despite taking super active counter damage, we can actually go for a Dragon Breath farm down just about, and they've got a Shadow Drapion in the back, so going straight for the Avalanche here. Avalanche is going to hit for absolutely huge damage up against the Drapion. They're forced to throw straight away, and now, of course, they are definitely in range where we can just Mud Shot, farm them down with the Shadow Flygon to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.